So you just bought your very first AK. In today's video, we're going to go over some things that you can do to make sure that this AK you just bought is right for you. Things to do before you commit to buying it, and things to do right after you buy it to get a bit more acquainted with it, make it a bit more user-friendly, and talk about some things that kind of seem to confuse a lot of brand new AK buyers. So the hope of this video is that you really get used to the AK in the most standard form, and today we're really going to talk a lot about 7.62x39 because it has the most recoil and it's the most common in this country. And really practicing with your gun and really learning it before you buy a ton of aftermarket support. I know it's hard to fight the urge to buy an AK or buy any gun really, take it home and then just deck it out with aftermarket before you ever put one round through it, before you ever even zero the damn thing. So in today's video, let's leave it bone stock. Let's assume that you just bought it or you're thinking about buying one, and let's go over the basics. Before we get into today's video, I gotta tell you about the best way to support what we do on the AK47 channel. We don't do Patreon, we don't do paid ads for ball sack razors. What we do have is merch, brand new merch, brand new lids, new hoodies, and for the first time ever, beanies. These things are going very quick. I can't guarantee when you see this video these will be in stock, but that's the best way to support us. And right now, if you're seeing this video in December, we have a major collaboration going on with Davernoff out of Brooklyn, New York. We are giving away $700 worth of Davernoff gear. Chest rigs, slings, cheek pieces, balaclavas, some really cool stuff. Every dollar you spend the entire month of December gets you one entry per dollar. So that's the best way to support us. Back to the video. Now, obviously, not everyone has the luxury of looking over the AK before you buy it because a lot of sales have moved online. You're going online, you're purchasing one, you're having it shipped to a local FFL to do a transfer, right? So you don't know if you're going to get one that's perfect. What I mean by perfect is AKs are kind of notorious for not being super straight. The sight block, the gas block, and the sight post sometimes being a little off. Not a huge deal. Typically, they'll run perfectly fine, but zeroing it can be a problem. Now, if you do have the luxury of actually handling it before you buy, maybe it's at your local gun shop or you're doing like a face-to-face sale, then you have the luxury of really spending time and looking it over before you commit to it, instead of already having the money spent online and then having to go through that whole refusal process. But again, look at your sight alignment. Make sure it's straight enough where you feel like you'll be able to zero it. AK iron sights up front are a drum that you move left and right. Well, the more out of whack your rear leaf and your front sight post is, the more you're going to have to float your front sight post over to get this thing zeroed. And eventually, people have been known to completely run out of alignment because whoever built it, whether it's a factory gun or a kit build, didn't really have it lined up perfectly straight. And of course, look at your rivets, make sure there's nothing absolutely egregious, but there's some things you just can't check for. You're going to have to shoot it later. You're really going to have to, check mag fitment later. Not a lot of people are going to let you jam a mag in this thing to see if it wobbles, to see if it's too tight, if you're going to have to trim mags. This was really a bigger problem back in the day. Guys putting parts kits together have gotten much better, I think, than they were back in the day, and then newly produced AKs have gotten really good at mag well fitment. I don't think that's a huge problem anymore, but still to this day, it seems like front sight post, gas block, and rear sight block still can be a little crooked from factory. Now that we're at this point, you've got the gun, you're happy with it, you've taken it home, you've done your background check, you own it. Before you go online and buy any accessories for it, whatever you were about to spend on accessories, buy a case of ammo, go to the range, and let's try some of this stuff out. Have you ever bought an AK and you go to put the safety down and it is so heavy that you have to like break your grip and really put some muscle in it to break that safety loose? And the same thing when it's on safe. You really have to muscle it back up off fire to go to safe and back and forth. It's just a notorious thing, turns a lot of people off when they first get into AKs, and they think they're stuck like that. They think the gun's always going to be like that. Not the case. Let me show you how to tune that really quick. It's a free upgrade, and in my opinion, really don't need to change out your safety if you do this. Dust covers off. All you have to do, point your safety lever straight up in the air like that. You can see that? A safety lever on an AK is nothing more than a leaf spring. The reason it's so tight, it's actually being bent into the receiver to add tension. Sometimes it's bent so much that it is physically difficult to actually drag it across the receiver. So all you're going to do is bend it the opposite way. I'm going to grab it and bend it this way, away from the receiver a little bit at a time, drop it back in place. You still want to have it kind of tight, where when it does fall into those notches, it stays there. You can have a safety so loose that as you shoot, it starts to fly around. But you don't want it to be so much that you're having to like freaking flex to get it going. So loosen it a little bit, come back down. you should be able to make a knife hand like this and actuate your safety with a knife hand. Down and up. Down and up. Shouldn't take a whole lot of muscle, still has enough friction. At that point, leave it alone, don't bend it anymore, put your dust cover back on. Now, you have a fully tuned safety that's much smoother, but it still has positive lockup. Now that you have it home, you can put magazines in and out of this gun without anyone freaking out that you're doing this at a gun store or a gun range or whatever. Check mag fitment. Have some com block, some surplus mags, some steel mags. It should work perfectly fine with these. A little bit of movement is not a big deal. Notice it rattles. Typically, these AKs can have a ton of mag wobble and still function perfectly fine, but egregious looseness in the mag well can be really annoying, can be really rattling. It's just something I don't want to deal with. Sometimes mag pull mags can have some of the worst fitment, like on older Wassers, things with really tight mag wells, and you'll have to like actually shave them. There's not a whole lot you can do with that other than trimming the mag well, which I would not do. You're probably gonna have to stick with steel mags. If you have a mag well that's super loose, try it with some Bakelights, try it with polymer mags, try it with steel mags, whatever. If it's loose, no matter what mag you put in it, here's a little part I'm gonna tell you about. No one really talks about these. Camera girl, if you can show them there. This mag latch here, see it okay?
Yep, agree.
It's made by M+M Industries, this little piece right here. This piece is designed to actually lean a bit more forward into the mag to take up slop. This gun in particular had a super loose butthole mag well, and I'm telling you, I could put a mag in, and this mag would like move that much. It had a ton of wobble and had front to rear wobble, and if you really pulled back on the mag to get a mag well grip like that, I could cause malfunctions. This fixed all of that. It's like a $50, $60 part, and if, as you can see here, this cross pin is held in by an E-clip. You just knock out the original pin. You can use like a Dremel or whatever. Pop that in there, E-clip it in place. You don't need a gunsmith to do that. And this will get rid of a ton of that mag wobble. Not only that, gives you a little bit more to grab onto, and it doesn't look like it's like not bone stock. So that's a really good piece of kit made by M+M Industries. At this point, you've checked mag fitment. You're happy with the alignment of your sights. Your safety isn't kicking your ass anymore, but your gun's still bone stock. Buy some ammo like we talked about earlier, and then come out to a range. Find some local ranges near you. Indoor ranges, when it comes to AKs, aren't the most friendly because even though it's banned and it's probably going to disappear soon, a lot of the 7.62 ammo has steel casings and it's bi-metal. It's not super abrasive on baffles and indoor ranges, but it fails a magnet test. So a lot of gun ranges, when they see this, they're going to say, no 7.62 by 39 at all in the indoor gun range. So find an outdoor gun range, cut through all that BS. Not every indoor place is like that, but most of them are. And I get it. They don't want sparks downrange. They want to salvage their baffles. That's fine. Not all of this ammo will do that, but most ranges are just like, we don't care. None of it. None of it's allowed. So now you need to shoot it. You don't even really have to be that zeroed. So every new gun I get, I don't touch the iron sights, I don't do anything. I'll go out to a gun range, I'll stand 10 feet away from a berm, shoot it and see what it feels like. Is it undergassed? Is it overgassed? What's the trigger feel like? Do I want to swap out the trigger? Do I want to keep it? Is my safety working now that I've kind of tuned it a little bit? We're just going to shoot it, see what it feels like. Man. Your AK's probably not going to shoot that soft. This one's been tuned a little bit, but reliable so far. Nice, slow, clean shots. And, you know, some people would say, you know, clean it before you shoot it, maybe drag something through the bore. You can look down the bore. If your AK's fine, you don't really need to clean it beforehand. Maybe some kit builds, there might be some metal shavings, but if it's a brand new production gun, you don't need to clean it. I guarantee you, they've test fired it before they ever sold it to you. So it's had rounds through it already. Now, speed up the pace, maybe do like a 5-round burst as fast as you can, just to make sure that your gas system's okay. We'll do that now. All right. Some kits will actually have really loose springs that are worn out, and you can actually have problems cycling. I've actually had this happen at a match recently where I found a parts kit, had a recoil spring that felt okay, but it was so wore out I would have double feeds. It just didn't quite have the rebound ass anymore to get that round in the chamber. New production guns should not be a problem whatsoever. So now you're past your test fire phase. Now we want to get into the next step, which is zeroing this thing. We want to zero it. After that, we'll kind of talk about how I zero 7.62, 5.45, and 5.56 AKs, depending on whatever caliber you have when you're watching this video, and what your holdover should be like out to 200 yards. Most people don't shoot that far with AKs or farther, but let's assume that you do. We'll talk about that now. Let's assume that you have 7.62 by 39 and you have a 16-inch barrel, a factory AKM, a milled AK, a Yugo, whatever. They've all got 16-inch barrels. They're all relatively going to have the same twist rate. I like to zero these things at 25 yards. The reason for that is with the 25-yard zero with 7.62, with that barrel length, you have what is called a belt buckle hold at 100. So if I were to shoot this target dead center at 25 yards, right here, that would mean at 100 yards, I'm going to be aiming here. His belt buckle with a 25-yard zero, point of aim, point of impact. At 100, you're going to start hitting like 6 to 8 inches high. So something that the Russians figured out, if they just told all their guys, split your target in half, aim at his belt buckle, you'll hit him in the chest, and there's not much thinking that goes into it. So at 100 yards, I'm just aiming at this dude's belt, and I'm going to hit him in the chest all day. And I know what you're saying. Well, why not just do like a 100-yard zero? Why would you want to compensate? It's less to think about from 25 all the way out to 200. When you start shooting at 200 yards with that same zero, the bullet comes right back to dead center. So think about that. From a 25-yard target to a target way out at 25, there's not much to think about. At 25, I'm aiming dead on. At 50, I'm still pretty much aiming dead on. At 100, I'm aiming right in his belt buckle. At 200, I'm aiming right back dead on. There's not much compensating at all that goes into it. Beyond that, it gets a bit more complicated, but that's a nice, easy way to zero your gun. So why don't we go to 25? We'll make sure that we have a fairly good zero, and now you know what your holdovers are. Oh, before I let you go, you're probably wondering what to do with 5.45 and 5.56 AKs, assuming you also have a 16-inch barrel. Most of those guns are probably going to have like a 1 in 7 twist. I zero them the exact same way, 5.45, 5.56 at 50 yards. You want to be dead on, point of aim, point of impact, 50 yards with those two calibers. The beauty of those two rounds, it is a dead hold from 50 out to like 300. You don't have to think about it. If I'm shooting a target this sized, right here, with my AK-74s, from 50, if I were to move this same target out to 300, I'm going to aim dead center the entire time. The round doesn't have this crazy arc from 50 to 300. It stays pretty flat. So really all you have to do is think about when you're shooting things up close with those calibers. You're going to have to compensate then. 50 yards will get you out to 300 with no thinking. And all of this is done right here on my battle zero. I'm not changing my elevation whatsoever. I'm keeping everything right there at the farthest point. I've been shooting AKs a long time. I never adjust this at all. I just know holdovers. Let's shoot that guy from 25. Another thing about these iron sights, we talked about not modifying your gun. If you're going to run your AK on irons for a long time, it is hard to beat a factory stock. The shape of these stocks is really meant to get super low. You know, we're used to AR-15s where we mount optics really high and the iron sights are high, and we kind of have like a neck that's straight up. Notice how low this stock is. This is designed for me to get my nose damn near to this dust cover, and my eyes will be in line with the top of this dust cover here. Very low. It's hard to beat the comfort of a factory stock when running AK irons. Some manufacturers will make buffer tube adapters or whatever. A lot of those are designed to raise your cheek because they're assuming you're going to shoot optics. A lot of those make it almost impossible to get back down low enough for your factory irons. So, if you're going to shoot irons, just leave it alone, man. Let's go look at our group. I zeroed this gun like 3 years ago, by the way, and it still has not lost zero. It's the beauty of iron sights. We're aiming dead center. We're hitting dead center. All of our rounds are touching. At 100 yards, these rounds, if I was aiming dead center, would probably be hitting up in his head area. At 200 yards, aiming dead center, they would come right back down to center. That's all you have to do. There's not much thought that goes into it. Super easy. All right, let's move on to another topic. This is an AK sight tool. I believe this is a Tapco, not the best one in the world. I highly recommend you get the Magnamatic, but you really got to use these things like once or twice, and then they go in a bag. The only problem with these, if you have an AK with a combo block, meaning your sight block and your gas block are one piece, this really won't work. The Magnamatic will, but we're assuming you have a 16-inch factory AK. Really quick, we won't waste a whole lot of time on how to zero. Think, when you're zeroing an AK, everything happens on the front sight post, and if you think about it, everything's opposite day. This piece here of my sight tool is made kind of like an AR-15 sight tool to fit on my front sight post, and I can loosen it or tighten it to raise or lower my elevation. It's threaded. It goes up and down, just like an M16, very similar to that sight tool. If I want to push my front sight post to the left, all I'm gonna do is put this guy on here. Let me use my other hand. Put this guy on here like this. Now, if you look here, there's a hole here that actually gives my drum some space to move. I'll tighten this and it will push my front sight post to the left. Vice versa, if you want it to go to the other side, just flip it around to the other side. Now back to what this is doing. Everything's opposite day while zeroing an AK on the front sight post. If I need my shots to go lower, I'm going to bring my front sight post up. If I need my shots to go higher, I'm gonna twist my front sight post down. Same thing for windage. If I'm hitting way right and I need to pull my shots back over to the left, then I'm gonna move the drum opposite. If you move your front sight post to the right, your shots are gonna go more left. If you move your front sight post to the left, your shots are gonna go more right. Do the opposite of what you need to happen downrange with an AK, and that's all you have to do. You don't touch anything back here when you're zeroing. Put it all the way back in the rear position. Everything happens up front, and that's how you use a sight tool. Pretty easy. And having one of these in your bag, I can't tell you how many times I've been at a range and I've been near or around someone that was trying to figure out zeroing their AK, and they just didn't know what to do with their hands. And I was like, hey man, I have what you crave, and I'll zero their gun for them, and they're like, oh, you want to be the guy at the range that has an AK sight tool. You're gonna save someone's life one day. All right. Oh, Carlton. Put him back in. At this point, you have a functioning AK that's pretty straight, factory stock. You have zeroed iron sights, and you know how it shoots in the bone stock form. At this point, I think you're ready to move on to really some more advanced stuff. Putting a few more rounds down range, shooting it out to distance, really showing that what I'm telling you on your holdovers really does ring true. Stock up on ammo, start getting some mags. You can't go wrong with surplus mags, steel mags, Bakelights. I know they're getting expensive, but if you get 4 or 5 of them, they will last. I've had these Bakelite mags for like 8 or 9 years. I have shot dozens of competitions, gone to several carbine classes. I mean, if you watch the YouTube channel, these things are getting beat on for years, video after video. Rachel, for some reason, likes to freaking throw them into orbit, out of space, bouncing them off satellites, and they still work. So Comblock mags, can't go wrong. They are worth the money. I mean, they're using these things for freaking landfills in Russia. We've all seen the photos. So at this point, I'm going to start releasing more and more videos soon, very soon. How to reload these things quickly and efficiently. How to manipulate your safety, your charging handle, shouldering it, the position that your body needs to be in, just manipulating this thing to where you can control recoil, get through your reloads speedy, quickly, efficiently, and really just get really good on an AK. If you do want to take shooting these things seriously, you have to treat them different than you do an AR-15. We've all grown up in America. We're all very skilled on ARs. I mean, it's almost hard not to be. This takes a bit more time and a bit more commitment. If you would dedicate just half the time that you have in one of your ARs or one of your other guns that you've grown up with that you love to this gun, it will freak you out how surgical you can get with it. But the key is, and that's the whole point of this video, starting at a bare bones base level. It's like taking the training wheels off your bike and just learning the hard way. When you start upgrading this, muzzle devices, optics, different stocks, better triggers, better grips, it's like putting training wheels right back on. Everything just gets easier. But it'll freak you out what you can do with a bone stock one. I know it's hard to fight the urge to modify, but just stick with me on this and, you know, learn the hard way. And there's places, there's like Kalash Bash and all these other big shooting events where there's divisions for bone stock AKs on iron sights. You want to come out and crush the price table, win that division. But anyway, that's it. If there's something I missed for you newbies out there or guys that are just thinking about getting one of these, let me know down in the comments below. What would you like to see? Maybe I can answer it right away. What new question do you have that I didn't cover on getting familiar with the AK platform? That's all I have for you guys. If you want to support the channel, go by 13threads.com, get baked. We got a bunch of new shirts, a bunch of new hats. If this video came out in December, we have a really cool giveaway going on with Davernoff, but you've already seen that ad at the beginning of the video if the timing was right. If not, we probably have another giveaway we're working on very soon. I appreciate everyone's support. No Patreon, no ad reads for ball sack razors, just third pin threads, and I love you. Bye.